Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome everyone to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. Today we have a special guest who's coming from Australia, Kylie Travers, who has really developed herself and created a powerful story of how she's turned obstacles into opportunities into her life, not saying, no, this is going to stop me, really defining her story, her vision for what she's doing in life and how she's impacting people's lives around the world. So let's give a welcome to Kylie Travers. So welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, definitely. So Kylie, tell us a little bit about yourself, as you have an amazing story.
I do. I'm told I do. I've experienced a lot. I've gone from being a homeless single mother of two to a multiple international award-winning CEO, author, blogger, speaker. I've kind of, been through a bit of everything with domestic violence, homelessness, robbed of everything at one point. I last year had like a cancer scare and I was paralyzed for most of the year. But obviously I've managed to turn all that around and come out the other end. So yeah, I like where I'm at in life now.
Now, that is quite the story. Just in those few moments there, from being paralyzed, being homeless, having everything taken away from you, some people would just kind of say, screw it, and just give up after one of those things. But you've going through all of it.
Yeah. I think I looked at it that I didn't give myself a choice with it. I had two daughters. All of this has happened in the last couple of years, so it was quite a short time frame. And I felt that I had to show them by example. And it was up to me to change our life and to turn all these obstacles into opportunities and make sure that my daughters and I had the life that I dreamt for us, instead of just giving up, even though I wanted to at times. I definitely wanted to give up at times, but then I would have been giving up on my daughters too, and I just didn't think that was an option.
Right. Oh, definitely. When you have someone else that you have to provide for, it can change your perspective, the outlook that you have. So now, you mentioned that, you were homeless there, and there's a lot of people who look at their circumstances where they think, oh no, the world is set against me. What was that like? What was that defining moment of how you started turning your life around from there, where you just said to yourself, this is not the future that you want to have?
It's kind of difficult to pinpoint because I had, I was experiencing domestic violence and I chose to end that relationship. And I had, in the space of weeks, ended that relationship. He continued to stalk, assault and harass me and everything. I got robbed of everything, including my underwear, within a week of leaving the family home and leaving him and everything like that. And then a few weeks later was like raped in that home, and then we ended up homeless, and that was all in the space of like 2 months sort of thing. And so, yeah, it was all happening all together, but it was like my brain compartmentalized everything. So each thing was a separate incident, and I just didn't focus on it happening all at once. And then, but throughout the whole thing, I had this quote from Carl Jung, which was, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. And so I would repeat that to myself. That was like my mantra. And so even whilst all these horrible things were happening, and it was like I was just getting smashed because it was one thing after the other. And a lot of the time I felt like I was taking one step forward and two steps back. But I kept repeating that to myself because I figured it had to be true. I had no other option. It's not like I could go any further down. Like I was at rock bottom. Like the only other thing would be to lose my daughters. And I think that was the critical thing for me, was that like I was homeless, and if people found out that that's the situation that I was in, I had this fear of losing my daughters, and I didn't want them ending up having to go to their father because of the abuse that I'd had from him. And so I think that was where it was at. It was just like I have to push through. I'm at rock bottom, and if things stay this way or continue this way, I will lose my daughters. And yeah, that's a pretty powerful motivator.
It is indeed. I think each and every one of us has that motivator that drives us, that that becomes your new floor. If you cannot go below that, no matter what happens, it's an absolute must to go forward. So what did you do to change your situation? Because I think there's a lot of people that they might be in some situation that is similar in nature, even though it's different, but they have that same necessity of they cannot go any lower because the pain involved is too great. What was it?
Yeah,
What did you do?
I think in a way I was in a fortunate position in that I had already started blogging, and I'd gotten a book contract through Wiley, and I had won an international award for blogging, and I'd won I had a bit of freelance writing that I was doing on the side. So whilst my personal life was falling to pieces, I sort of had a bit of a side hustle happening. So I've decided to focus on that and just absolutely smash it out and do whatever I could there. And I started doing more freelance writing. I looked for like speaking opportunities. And then once I was in a position where I was safe, so about 6 months after we were experiencing homelessness, I managed to move to another city where my family were and rebuild. Like once I got there, I was able to take the proper steps to rebuild. But it started with things like volunteering and really looking at ways that I could use both the side hustle that I had with blogging and a social media presence and combine that with raising awareness and funds for homelessness and domestic violence and working with charities in that area. And so it was interesting that it was sort of by helping others is what really helped me to do it. But throughout the whole thing, even though I had this side hustle, I had to set goals each step of the way, and I had to really focus on not letting it get me down, everything that was happening. And instead of focusing every day on, oh my gosh, I'm homeless, oh my gosh, like I've lost everything type thing, I had a vision board. I had my goals. I had my goals written in permanent marker on my mirrors. I had them put into each section, like travel, family, career, and all of that. And each day I would look at them, I would repeat them to myself and go, all right, so this is where I want to be. I'd visualize it, but I'd also focus on what are the small steps I needed to take that day to ensure that I was one step closer to each goal, sort of thing. So it was quite methodical throughout it, and focusing on my skills, but also focusing on the community as a whole. So it wasn't all about me. Obviously the goals were my personal goals that I selected, but everything that I was doing was to help, I guess, the community and other people in my sort of situations, instead of just going and focusing on, I guess, the fastest ways that I could make more money or things like that. I wanted to focus on improving everything everywhere I was, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. And that's really powerful. You said something that I think people don't necessarily understand. It's about that concept of giving, that we live in a world where so many people, they just want to be on the receiving end consistently, never look at how they can contribute. So tell us a little bit about that segment where you were volunteering and you were contributing your time and your energy when you were homeless. Like, what type of impact did that have, and what doors started opening because you were volunteering?
That had a massive impact, actually. I didn't expect it to. I started with volunteering in a drop-in centre, so it was for people who were experiencing homelessness, and I got talking to them about different things, different ways that I might be able to help, and they mentioned that they do haircuts on a Friday, and I'm actually a qualified hairdresser. And I said, oh, like who does the haircuts? And the manager was like, me. So like, if you want to jump in, feel free. And I'm like, okay. So I started doing that. And it was actually really motivating for me because it gave me somewhere to be every Friday morning. Like I had to be there every Friday morning, and then it ended up happening on Thursdays as well. I was working solid that entire time, but it was amazing because I was talking to different people that were coming in, and I had my regulars, and it was interesting because they all opened up a lot more to me because they knew I'd been there. Like I knew what they were going through. I was also able to understand on a level that none of the other volunteers and workers there could. And there was some people that had been going to this centre for like 7 years that had never opened up about anything that they needed or any help or anything about their past. And so there was no way for the volunteers to sort of give them any help. And then through doing the haircuts, because your relationship with your hairdresser tends to be kind of personal, and a lot of people treat it like a relationship with a priest where they sort of confess things and that sort of stuff. And it was interesting that we were suddenly able to help all these people because they opened up to me a lot more. And it meant that for me, on days where I was really struggling with where I was at in my life, and I guess had self-esteem issues too and didn't know really where I was going, I'd go up there and all these people were so happy to see me and spend time with me, and I felt like I was actually making a difference. And interestingly enough, it actually led to speaking. I became an ambassador for a few charities. I was featured in different campaigns. It resulted in me becoming director on the board for a different charity in Canberra. Again, still that one that assisted people who were homeless or close to it and needed any sort of assistance to stop becoming homeless. So I ended up, I was actually the youngest member of that board ever. So that was a huge turning point. And it just sort of led to so many other things. Unintentionally, it just sort of went down that path. I became a bit of a spokesperson, I guess, in Canberra, especially for homelessness and domestic violence. And it led to other international speaking opportunities and that sort of thing. And eventually I was a finalist for Young Australian of the Year because of my work with homelessness and domestic violence, which all sort of tied into, my business side of things, what I was doing there. But I ended up doing, a whole lot more with homelessness and domestic violence. It was just the way that my life sort of took me for a while, I guess, because, a lot of people aren't in a position to speak about it. If they've been through domestic violence, it's generally fairly unsafe and your life is threatened. So to have somebody that was able to speak out about it was quite a big deal for a lot of charities.
Oh, definitely, because it's one of those things, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, it happens every day. And everything that you do to create awareness, it becomes extremely powerful because more people need to know of what resources there are out there. What is it they can do, of how people can recognize the signs of it, or even be able to understand the situation they're in and be able to change it, because you see the people that are going through it and they're not getting out of it. They're stuck in that endless cycle. So the more awareness that you create, the better it is for people everywhere.
Absolutely. And I think that was one of the big things for me, was because sometimes you don't even realize when you're in it. Like, it wasn't until I was out of the relationship that I realized how severe it was, and that a lot of the things that had happened to me weren't normal for a relationship and shouldn't have happened. Like, they weren't things that I should have experienced. And it's interesting because the more I spoke up about it, the more people came forward with their own experiences and either told me or felt comfortable to report what had happened to them, or did public speaking themselves and that sort of thing. And a whole lot more awareness started being raised. In Australia, we're almost at 2 women a week dying from domestic violence. It's considered quite an epidemic here in Australia. It's pretty horrific. And to be one of those people that have been able to speak out about it and show people, both people who've never experienced it and can't comprehend the sort of mindset that you're in when you're in that situation, as well as people who are in it, to change their mindset. Because when you're in it, generally you don't have any sort of confidence. Your self-esteem has been completely eroded away by your partner. You're made to feel worthless and like nobody else will want you. And you're also often threatened with your life. Particularly, they found that statistically the most dangerous time is when you try to leave. That's when you're most likely to be killed. And for myself, that's when my now ex-husband, he actually pulled a knife on me, and it was, quite terrifying. And that was after I was leaving. Like, we'd separated. I was gone, but my life was in more danger at that point. And so for a lot of people, it's easier in a way to stay in that sort of situation. But to now be in the position that I am in now, I can say with authority that no, like, if you do it safely and take the right steps and leave, it won't be easy. I mean, I lost everything after I left. But eventually, if you really work hard and you focus on it and you do things like practice gratitude and you set your goals and you know where it is that you want to be and you take action to get there, then your life will be significantly better. Like, my life now, it's better than anything I ever could have imagined. I have an amazing partner. My daughters and I are extremely happy. We live in a city that we love. I have flexibility with my work. I get to work around my daughters. I never pictured that life could be as good as it is now. I never imagined it. And so, I like to tell those people that it is possible to change your life, and it is possible to get out of that sort of situation, and that you are worth more, even if you don't feel like it at the time, that you are.
And That's amazing. To be able to go through that transformation and be able to help so many people with that and raising awareness. So once you were out of the domestic violence situation and you realized here it is, you needed to start moving forward. You had everything with the publishing, from writing the blogs. How was it you started to create a business out of it, where that side hustle, you realize this is my avenue of all the different skill sets you mentioned, that, you were a hairdresser. How did you decide upon that one thing? You said, I have to run with this and make it work regardless.
Yeah, well, because I had, like, as you say, I had the blogging thing happening, and I was an author and stuff, and I was enjoying that. I quite liked it. And then it was in early 2014, the opportunity came up to buy a couple more websites, and I've gone, all right, well, I like this thing. I'm going to do that. And then within a few months, I had a lot of inquiries from companies wanting to work with me, as I'd previously been doing sponsorships and things like that and advertising through my website. But now I had a lot more, and I had a lot of other bloggers asking me, how do I get connected? How do I get sponsorship with these companies? How do I do influencer programs and that sort of thing? And so in June of 2014, I've gone, all right, I'm going to set this up properly. I'm going to do it properly. I've got a few websites that I own now. I'm connecting companies with bloggers and that sort of thing. So I decided that I'd set up the company. And then so I set it up. The company owned a few websites. We were connecting businesses with bloggers and doing influencer programs and that sort of thing. And then I got asked to do a lot of speaking and workshops and that sort of thing on it. So I guess everything sort of came to me as I was doing it, but that was partly because I'd already established myself as a blogger. Like in Australia, when I started, there really weren't many bloggers writing about finance. It tended to be a lot of like lifestyle and mummy and fashion and food. But even now, there's not heaps that focus on finance. So I was fortunate that I had a bit of uniqueness there, I guess, to be able to run with. And then when I was working with finance companies, I was able to provide them with all the other finance bloggers. And yeah, it just sort of evolved that way. And then last year, I guess, when I got really sick, it made it quite difficult to keep it going. But it's like, if I didn't have that company, we would have lost everything. We would have ended up homeless. Again, it would have been quite terrifying. But yeah, I think I was fortunate because I had all of that, and I knew how to do it. Like, I used the skills that I had with blogging and the connections that I had already with businesses to put everybody together. But I wasn't as strategic as I should have been about it until, I would say, this year. Yeah, so whilst it was good and I was fortunate, it was very much based around my children and the time that I had to do things and the limited skills that I had. I look at it now and I'm like, I could have outsourced more. I could have got more people on board. There's a lot of things that I could have done differently. And I feel like it's taken me until now to sort of get into my stride with it, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely.
And focus better.
Oh, yeah. We all go through that growth phase where you start wondering, maybe I should have done it that way. That whole concept of everything is a lot clearer when you're looking in the mirror going backwards in life than just going forward.
Absolutely. And I think I did a lot of, that's fallen into my lap, I'll do that. And I think too, because of where I'd come from, it was like I didn't want to say no to stuff.
Right.
If that makes sense. I had this strong fear, especially when starting, I had this strong fear of not succeeding and ending up where I was previously. And it was like failure was not an option. Whereas now I look at it and I'm like, well, failure is not bad. Like, you learn a lot from failure and you can rebuild. Like, no matter what happens, you can rebuild. It doesn't matter if you lose everything again. Like, clearly you can rebuild. But yeah, I think fear led my business at the beginning, which fear and opportunity, which wasn't a great way to be. But
right.
I think it ended up well. And I think being able to recognize the opportunity was a big one.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Hard to explain that one a little bit.
It's quite all right. But, when you think about it, it's when we fail at something, we can have our biggest breakthroughs, because that means we're trying. We're looking for ways to succeed instead of just sticking to the normal course, which is what so many people do. They're playing it safe because they don't want to fall down. I always use the analogy, if you look back to it, or even if you're thinking about with your daughters, when they're first learning how to walk, it wasn't like they just stood up and said, "I've got this," and just walked across the room, strutting their stuff, grabbed that cookie, then walked over to their little chair and sat down and had a little snack.
That'd be terrifying if that happened.
I think everybody would be like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Versus what usually happens with most kids out there, they take that first step, then splat. So
Yeah.
but it's no different than in business. We take a couple steps, and then there's going to be a stumbling block. We're going to trip. It's going to look like something in slow motion, like, oh no, here comes the ground. And you have a choice. You can either lay there or you can get up.
That's it. Absolutely. And I think too often we dismiss like the obstacles and things that get in our way as just being problematic. And I look at it, and I've been through quite a few obstacles, but without all of that happening in my life, I wouldn't be where I am now. Like I wouldn't have had a lot of those speaking opportunities. I wouldn't have had, well, at least half the awards that I've been awarded, I wouldn't have if it wasn't for them. I've got like another book contract that I wouldn't have had without going through what I went through. And so I think it's like every time we do stumble, or every time we have something that we feel is in our way, we need to look at it more objectively and look for the lesson in it, look for what we can learn from it and what positives can come from it. For example, like the night that I got robbed was horrible. It was within a week of leaving the family home, and I came home and I just had this gut feeling that I'd been robbed. And as I walk up to the door, it was obvious. I was robbed, and walk inside, everything's gone. Underwear, perfume, jewelry. Like I had heirlooms from my great grandmother and everything all gone. And first reaction was to freak out. I felt obviously very violated because I didn't just gotten there, and crumpled into a heap. I called the police, and then I called my dad, and I had a chat with my dad. And my dad's really good with looking at things objectively. And he was like, well, here's the steps you need to take. It's probably good if you sit down and work out what's been stolen and write a list and stuff. So when the police get there, you can discuss it properly and that sort of thing. And he goes, like obviously any help I needed, he could help me. And he's like, and you've got insurance, right? And I'm like, yeah, of course I've got insurance. You'll be fine then. It's like, really? It's not how I'm feeling right now. And I got off the phone to him and I was like, yeah, I've got insurance. Like I'll be okay. And so I sat down actually and wrote down a gratitude list. And in the gratitude list, I included reasons I could be grateful for being robbed, sort of thing. And so, and like basically be happy about the situation, like what good can come from the situation. And it was like, well, firstly, my daughters and I weren't home when it happened, so we weren't in danger or anything like that. My daughters weren't actually aware of what had happened at all. Their bedrooms had been left untouched, so they'd gone straight to their bedrooms and gone to sleep and had no idea that the police were coming and my life was falling to pieces. So that was huge. I was insured, which meant that I was able to go replace everything. Also, I listed like I was really grateful actually because everything that I had was, well, I didn't have a lot at all, obviously, because I just left, but it all had connections to my ex-husband. And now instead of having to save up and replace those things over time, I now had a clean slate. And it's like, that's actually a pretty big opportunity that most people don't get. I had a clean slate to start with, and I was getting the chunk of change from the insurance company to start over with. And so I ended up, I think I came up with like 10 things for this list of reasons to be grateful for being robbed. And then I realized, I'm like, I should apply that to like every area of my life. Like every time something negative comes up, I'm going to aim to list at least 3 positives, even if those positives are, well, actually, usually if those positives would be sort of lessons, I'd look for lessons in it, or just any reason what good could come from this situation, and focus on that instead of focusing on whatever trauma had just happened. And it's interesting when you start viewing life in that way, how many opportunities you start to see in the darkest of places and in the most horrible experiences you can, sort of sift through. And whilst your heart will be breaking and it is a trying experience to go through, being able to cling to something to be grateful for in that situation, or cling to a lesson or an opportunity, enables you to sort of switch your thinking from being, really negative and defeated to being able to find the energy to push through and achieve what you want to achieve.
Wow.
That was really long, sorry.
Oh, no. I mean, that's not long at all. That is so powerful because your story, it relates to so many people when they have something bad happen. You look at how many people around the world, they went to work one day, then they got a call and said, "Hey, thanks for your service, but you're no longer needed."
Yeah.
Or the people that lost their home, or because there was a fire or whatever. There are so many instances that people had something where most would look at it and think, well, so much for life. The world has officially said, up yours.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And you're just left standing there.
Yeah. Like, I look at it and I'm just like, because so much happened in such a short period of time. And we actually had, I've had multiple car accidents in that time. Apparently my car's invisible and other people just like smash into the side of me or pull into my lane. Like I don't exist on the road. And things like that. And it was just like, so many of my friends were like, and you're not giving up yet? And I'm like, it's not an option. Like, this is actually really cool. Like I had 2 car accidents within 24 hours. It's not something most people should be excited about, but
no, usually not.
No, well, because the first one I was in my lane and then this like minibus just pulled into the side of my car and like I saw it happening and it was terrifying, but my daughters weren't in the car, so I was grateful about that. And it damaged the entire side of my car from front to right to the tail light. And I was quite shaken up and stuff, but like it was okay. And then the next day, like almost exactly the same time, I parked my car and the car next to me pulled out and just smashed and took out the other half of like the other side of my car. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And then, and I know, I was just like, oh, this is unbelievable, because these two together would have totaled my car, but they were 2 separate claims. So it didn't total my car. And I was just like, that sucks. But it ended up being really good, because this was when I had just stopped being paralyzed, and I'd had a couple of surgeries last year and stuff. So I had all these massive medical bills and stuff like that, and took my car and had it assessed by like the panel beaters. I couldn't even think. Panel beaters. And they actually fixed a couple of things on the spot for me for no charge, and then gave me the quotes for the insurance companies and everything. And then the insurance companies were like, well, you can either just take a cash payout or, we can get it fixed for you or whatever. It's your choice at this point. And I've gone, oh, fantastic. My car, they said, like, was in perfect condition, mechanically sound, everything like that. It just had some scratches. And when I buffed some of it, it was actually their paint had come off on my car. And so there was entire panels that were like not needing as much work and this sort of thing. I've gone, oh, brilliant. And so the car's like fine. And so, they paid me out and I paid all my medical bills and everything because of these car accidents, and my car's fine. I actually use my car where I live now. We moved cities like a month later, and I knew I was doing that. And we walk everywhere now, so my car just sits there and doesn't get used. But it was just like, that's so fantastic. Like these 2 car accidents, I didn't get injured in them. My kids weren't around, like paid for, like, it was stressful, obviously, when it actually first happened. But then when I stepped back and I've just gone, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity. Like, this is going to cover my expenses and stuff like that. And my friends were just like, you're insane. Nobody is happy about a car accident. Like, there's nothing to be grateful for in that. And I'm like, oh, you've got no idea. I think the stress of medical bills was higher than the stress of a car accident. So, you can sort of apply it to any situation and be happy about just about anything that happens to you, and just be definitely a weirdo.
Oh, no, it's not being weird at all. If you think of it, it's doing something which most people don't think about, of how to see the light in any situation. Because if you look at the world we live in, just, for example, look at the news of how people just gravitate towards everything that's negative. When was the last time you just turned on the news channel and you just thought, and for the next 30 minutes, we're just talking about the things that are positive happening in the world. I have yet to see that on any news network globally.
Oh, I know. I've switched off from the news. I can't watch it. And it's funny, my 7-year-old actually, she loves the news. Like, she loves the news and she loves fishing shows. So I think I get it through her a little bit. She's so into it. Right. But I find it interesting. Yeah, I know. She's so special. But like, I find it interesting because so much of this will come up in my newsfeed. So at times I've had to hide things. You know how you can select to hide in your newsfeed and that sort of thing. And I just think it's fascinating. Like, you look around the world and there seems to be so many horrific things happening, but there's so many good things happening. We just don't tend to share that as much. And I think we focus so much on the negative things happening. And I don't actually think the world is worse than it was years ago or anything like that. I just think we know about absolutely everything that's happening as soon as it happens. because there's social media, like there's journalists on the ground, like there's people on the ground everywhere. So when something happens, it's like instantly uploaded to Facebook or, instantly shared with the journalists and then news feeds and stuff like that. And so people can spread it like wildfire. And so you're bombarded with these messages. And so, I think it's really important. I've actually searched out pages on Facebook, for example, that will only share like positive things, so that then I can, focus on that for a while, so that, I can create my newsfeed on Facebook, for example, to only have positive things coming through and stuff like that, instead of, having all the negativity. And I think that's important, because it's so easy to get weighed down by all the negative, because that's what we're bombarded with. That's what sells newspapers, apparently. Well, not that people buy newspapers anymore, but you know what I mean.
Right. Exactly. It's what gathers people's attention. No one wants to see that person that they climbed a tree to save a cat. Like, that's great. Now, that wouldn't be newsworthy. Someone burning the tree down, that would be newsworthy, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a sad way to live.
Right.
I think.
So it's all about what are the things we can do to change our perspective, how to seek out the things to be grateful for in our lives, regardless of what's going on. Because like you said, when you look at your newsfeed on Facebook, you see so much stuff that you have to start hiding it. I made it a point for so long not to interact with the people that are negative. So I just see positive interactions every day when I'm on Facebook, which is great, because I don't want to log in and go, wow, I feel horrible now. I think I'm just going to go sit on the couch. No. You have to change things.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I think we all have that power to do that too. Like, we can determine what we see on our social media. We can determine what news we choose to watch. You don't have to sit down there in front of the TV and watch anything. You don't have to allow things to come into your news feed. You can choose to hide them. You can join groups that are powerful and supportive. You can, as hard as it is for a lot of people, eliminate toxic people from your life. So instead of allowing them to stay in your life and be negative and put you down all the time, you can choose to end those sorts of relationships. And it's not always easy, because I've had to do that a couple of times. It might not be easy, but it's definitely worth it, because, it's the same as you become the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's the same sort of thing, like with all the information and things that you're exposed to in your life. If you're allowing yourself to be bombarded with negativity, that's going to take its toll. And so, make the choices and go, how does this make me feel? Like, whatever action it is, whatever thing that you're reading, whatever it is, how does this make me feel? And if it's something that's continuously making you feel bad about yourself or bad about your life or making you feel scared or anything like that, then it's not something that's serving you. And so you're better off to see how you can either eliminate it completely or reduce it in your life and increase the positive aspects of your life and positive news and positive people and things like that. So to surround yourself with like-minded people.
Right, exactly. And that's something that more people have to do on a regular basis, because I think people tend to hold on to those people in their lives or relationships, even if they're toxic, because they might say things, but I've known them my whole life.
Yeah.
Or they give excuses to try to validate the relationship, no matter how damaging it is. So what are a couple ways that you think people could build to walk away from those toxic environments? Because, you have experience doing just that. Yeah,
well, it depends partially on the situation, I think. You kind of need to look at the situation, analyze it, and really ask yourself, like, why are you in this relationship, whether it's a friendship or, romantic relationship, or even at times like family relationships, and why are you in it? What's the purpose of it? For example, after when I was homeless and struggling in that, I ended up sleeping on a friend's lounge, and this friend, I became quite attached to, because I felt they were the only person that helped me at the time. I was living in a different city to my family, so my family didn't know what was going on. And I became quite dependent on her. And then once I stepped back and sort of got on my own 2 feet again, I realized how toxic that relationship was and how much she was putting me down. And I was only in that relationship because I had become reliant on her, and I felt like I owed her because she'd taken me in when I had nowhere else to go. But in reality, she was feeding off me, and she was, taking money from me. She was putting me down constantly. So it wasn't a healthy relationship. And once I looked at that and realized that, no, this is not a good relationship, and I'm only in it because I feel obligated to be, and I need to stop it. And so the next step that I took was I'd actually moved to cities, so that's a rather extreme step. But that was not related to that. That just coincided with the timing for that. But basically what I've done in other ones where I've had to distance myself a bit is exactly that. Just choose not to go out with them as often, or choose not to go to places that I know that they are, or participate in groups and events and things that they're participating in, if that makes sense. And it's not about denying myself anything, because often when I looked at it, I was like, well, that group event, pretty much everybody in it weren't the sort of people I should be hanging out with, or were putting me down and being mean to me or something like that. So it was about replacing those negative aspects of my life with more positive aspects. And then there have been other ones where it's been a matter of evaluating the relationship and then going, all right, I've actually got to confront this person about it and end it like face to face sort of thing. Obviously that's more common with romantic relationships and things like that. And you've got to look at it objectively and be quite calm about it and reasonable about it, and firm, like really firm in your resolve as to like, this relationship is not going to continue anymore. And, have your reasons why or whatever. Don't get into a debate with them about it. And then be really firm. And I've had to do things like block them on social media, block them on my phone, and just cut all contact, which is extremely difficult. But yeah, like once you've taken the first step of evaluating the relationship objectively, it becomes quite clear what route you need to take, like whether it's slowly just sort of fading out of their life versus actually confronting it and ending it. But once you make that decision to do it, you need to be solid, you need to be firm. And sometimes it can help to have a support person, if that makes sense. Not have the support person come with you to break up with your boyfriend. That's really mean. But like like don't do it that way. But have somebody in your life aware of what's happening, and that, you might be particularly vulnerable and sensitive that day, and that it would be nice if they could be there for you and that sort of thing. My siblings and I are extremely close, and so they tend to know everything. But yeah, like anytime I've had to do anything like this, I've just gone like, hey, heads up, sisters, this is what I'm doing. If, you can be around later or whatever, if we could all have lunch together or something, that would really help me. And so then, yeah, I'd go, there'd be a time limit on how long I was going to be there. It sounds like I do this all the time. I don't break up all the time.
I hope not.
No, but I had some toxic friendships when I was going through the homelessness and that sort of thing. And I had to, eliminate them sort of thing. And so, yeah, like I went and did it. There was a time limit, which meant that the conversation couldn't go on for a long time. It was just sort of like, this needs to end, that's done. And then I'd go off to lunch with my sisters and discuss it, and they'd, pump me back up, I guess. And so, yeah, just creating your plan about how you're going to do it.
Right. And I think that's important. People need to have that plan and then realize it's a process, that you just don't wake up one day, you start making that list of all the people, this person safe, this person gone. And
exactly.
Just cut them out instantly. I'm wondering, where did they go?
Yeah, that's it. And it's not like emotionally you're going to feel great straight away either. I mean, like, it's horrible to cut somebody out of your life, no matter what they were like. Like leaving my husband, that was horrifically traumatic. I mean, I'd been with him for 7 years when we separated, and in Australia you have to be separated for 12 months and 1 day before you can apply for divorce. So it was like 8 years all up, we were married, and we had 2 kids together. And even though he was abusive, it was like that was really difficult. I mean, because I was dealing with the abuse, and then following on from that, the reality of how much abuse I'd experienced, and dealing with the police and all that sort of stuff. And even though all of those things were put in place, it's a really difficult and emotional process to go through, to cut somebody from your life. Like, no matter what form they were in or what they've done, you think about that at different times. And it's, it's not a quick process. And even sometimes like years down the track, when you've cut somebody, whether they're a friend or not, I shouldn't say cut, like when you've removed somebody from your life, I guess, they might pop into your head for whatever reason. And sometimes you might have a pang of, sadness or guilt or something about it. But being objective about it and realizing that that's what needed to be done, and that your life is better for it, helps a little bit. Yeah, it's not an immediate result, just going, all right, buddy, you're out of my life now, I'm done, and walking away. Right. Like, you've got to realize that's not the end of it. Like, you sort of be prepared for your emotions around it, I guess.
Right. There's more to it than the way it might be perceived watching some reality TV show. It's not like, Sorry, you did not make the cut. You must leave now.
Exactly. Oh, if only it was that easy.
Right? Like, I'm so relieved. I just said you're gone and
That's right.
everything's better.
Poof, you're out of my life. That's fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if it worked that way, there'd be so many other amazing things that would just happen in an instant. Like, I think I just want to snap my fingers and ta-da, there it is. Everything's perfect.
It would be
But
so good
sadly,
and so bad.
I've tried that many times. I'm snapping. Like, okay, I snap my fingers.
Right.
Awesome. I guess I got to get to work
magic.
on that.
You can't just make it happen with your mind.
Right, I know. But, what we can do when you're thinking about it, it's using vision boards at least to be able to start casting what do we want to have happen. So how have you used a vision board since, we can't just create things with the snap of our fingers, but we can at least start envisioning them and take actions? How have you used them?
Absolutely. I'm a huge believer of vision boards and visualization and that sort of thing, but in line with goals. So typically what I do is I will think about the sort of life that I want, what goals I need to set to get there. And then I look at finding the photographs, the wording and all that sort of stuff that I need to create my vision board. And then I'll have my vision board. I actually have an entire motivation wall. So I have my vision board in the middle of it with me, like a picture of me in the middle of the vision board and all the things set around it. I typically break mine into segments. So I'll have like travel, career, family, home, all that sort of stuff in different sections on my vision board. That just tends to be how I like to do it. And then on my motivation wall with my vision board, I have like my goals set out. I have a big calendar with everything that I'm doing. I have like quotes, like positive quotes, like my favorite quotes, like I mentioned before, that I am not what happened to be, I am what I choose to become. Another favorite is, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? And the last one is luck is where opportunity meets preparation. So those ones are some of my favorites that I sort of have as my mantras and affirmations, I guess. And I look at them every day and I focus on them, but I take actionable steps every day. So I get frustrated when people sort of create their vision board and then stick it up and they're like, that's it, it's done. I was like, no, like you need to focus on doing that. And a big part of me for the vision board and the motivation wall and that sort of thing is this is a visual reminder every day of what I'm working towards. This is not what's going to make it all happen, but this is going to put it in the front of my mind. It's going to embed it in my subconscious so that even when I'm not consciously focusing on that sort of thing, my brain is constantly looking for opportunities that line up with my vision board and my goals. And I think that's the crucial part. And that's why I like having my vision board and my motivation wall in an area where I can see it all the time. I've also taken like pictures of my motivation wall or even just specifically of my vision board and have set like as the background on my laptop, on my phone as screensavers, pictures in my wallet and that sort of thing. Like I have constant reminders everywhere visually and written down as well. I'll have my goals written down next to them of what it is that I'm working towards. But I don't leave it as just the vision board and just the visual aspects. I every day write down like the 3 most important things that I must do that day to enable me to get to where I want to be. Everything has to have a strategic plan behind it. Everything doesn't always go to plan. Like often things will come up or different opportunities will come up and I might tweak things and change things. But the general focus of where I want to get to is the same. And so I use the vision board as sort of a visual reminder of where I want to get, not so much as that being the only way to get there, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. And I think you said something there which is extremely powerful that most people are not doing, and that's writing out 3 things they must do. Because you look at how often people make these ghastly long to-do lists each and every day, and then they feel they're not getting anything done versus focus on 3 outcomes. What are 3 things you must make happen? And how that can keep moving you forward. Because there's some things that it's just busy work, but then also you look at it as going back to that concept of outsourcing, you can start looking at what are the things you need to be doing to keep you moving forward. And you start realizing all this little stuff, why not hire somebody to do that? Why are you doing it yourself when you can be working on the bigger things?
Exactly. And I think that's a big step that a lot of people miss is that they will focus so much on, being in the startup phase or something and like trying to save as much money as possible and doing everything themselves. And it's realistically, if you look at it, all those busy little tasks will weigh you down and you can't expand with them. Also, if you look at just how much you can earn an hour versus how much you can pay somebody else an hour to do that stuff, it's huge. And it's not just within business. It's things like I can pay somebody, $20 to do all our shirts for the week or whatever, like iron all our shirts. And in that same hour or two that they take to do that for $20 or $30 or whatever it is, I can earn significantly more than that if I go to do work that's within my skill sets and the things that I'm best at, where my strengths are and the most important things that sort of only I can do. I think people focus too much on doing it all themselves and saving as much money as they can possibly, and then they just get weighed down in all these little busy things and they view everything as important. And it's like, well, no, not everything is important. Like, what 3 things do you need to do to ensure that you're moving forward, that your business is progressing or your life is progressing into the way that you want it to do? And there's a lot of different methods that people use. Like there's like a quadrant method. There's like Tim Ferriss, Chris Ducker, Stephen Covey, all those sorts of people have lots about how to work out what your most important tasks are. But a lot of the time we look at tasks that are urgent and think that they're the most important tasks when in fact they're not.
Right.
Yeah. It's about working out what is actually going to help you move forward and what has to be done, what the most important tasks are, not just what the busy, urgent tasks tend to be. Because we can spend our entire day just answering emails type thing half the time, and it's like you will have achieved nothing by the end of the day, but you've covered off what you thought were the urgent tasks.
Right.
But it's not. It's not actually helping you.
And that in itself is powerful, because the things I tell myself each and every day when I'm looking at how to grow things are simple stuff such as, obviously, what are those 3 outcomes I need to work on every single day? But then when it starts coming to how do I grow the business, asking myself, is this something that I have to do myself, or can I hire somebody to do that work instead?
Exactly.
And approach every problem that way, because then even if I don't do something in terms of outsourcing at the moment, I might do it later. And this is what I always encourage people to do. Before you just automatically say, here you go, learn how it should be done so you can set the standard for it. And that way it's done the way that you want it done, instead of people just going, well, you didn't really give me direction, so I made it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And it's really good too. Like if you can write down the notes, for example, step by step or whatever it is that you're doing, and then hand it to somebody else and go, can you do this step by step, and make sure that they're doing it the way that you want them to do it, then you can see that the method that you've created is good. They can follow it and you can outsource that easily. My sisters are super lucky. They get roped into being my testers for things like this all the time. So much. They've learned lots of skills.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I think it's really important, as you said, to look at each task that you're doing and going like, does this need to be done by me, or is this something that I can outsource? And then even if it is a matter of creating a list later and going, this is specific tasks that you plan on outsourcing at some point, and then creating documents online so that it's all linked to, for example, so it could be, like, this is the way I like these particular, advertising emails answered, or this is the way I like my Facebook scheduled, and that sort of thing. And then having a document attached to that outlines the process, so that when you're ready to outsource, you've got it right there and you can select the things that are, I guess, most important to you to outsource first, or that would free up the most time for you, or whatever it is. You've got it all there. You've done the process. It's easy for people to understand, and it's an easier process to outsource then when you've got the guide and that guide is easy to for them to follow. If that makes sense, that eliminates a lot of problems at the outsourcing phase.
Oh, it definitely does when you're able to do that, when you've identified the exact process, because then there's no confusion on any parts of it. It becomes duplicatable, and you can then create scaling from there. So if you have one outsourcer doing it, you can end up with 2, 3, or 4 or more doing the exact same thing to meet the demands of your business.
Exactly.
And that's incredible. So now let me ask you this as we start winding everything up. What's the favorite tool that you like to utilize? Obviously you use your motivational wall there. What's the tool that helped you begin to create that helped you figure out what should be on this for it to be most effective?
I'm not sure. Like, I was reading a bunch of self-help books at the time that sort of guided me. So that helped. And I guess like listening to podcasts like the Tim Ferriss podcast and Gary Vee's podcast and that sort of thing all helped, like in terms of knowing what I wanted to do in that. But I guess for a specific tool, I've really liked Asana, to sort of break everything up and write down my three most important tasks for that day and all the projects that I'm working on, and I can share it with my team and that sort of thing. I think that's been a really good actual physical tool that I can have both on my computer and on my phone, and I can set reminders and that sort of thing. I think that helped a lot in line with the vision boards and that sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Asana is a great tool to keep clarity on things and communication. And a lot of businesses, they have to make that leap to leveraging technology because it's so much easier if you have a central communication hub where you can look at what's going on in a project instead of trying to email back and forth and one person misses out on a part of a conversation that's vital to their section. Realize it's all right here.
That's it. And there's heaps of tools like Asana. Asana was just the first one that I came across when I started doing it, but I've heard of like Basecamp's good and that. And and to be able to section things and assign different tasks to different team members and to keep things, private. These are the things I only want myself seeing, or, that sort of thing. It just makes it so easy to see where each task is up to, each project that I'm working on is at. And instead of having to go through long email chains and that sort of thing. Right.
Oh, definitely. It's a powerful thing when you can be able to keep it simplified that way. And since when you're thinking about, you have your book deal and you've influenced others with your book, what's a book that's had a lot of impact in your life that you'd recommend somebody to read?
It's funny, when I was a teenager, I read The Richest Man in Babylon, which is quite an old book now. That had a pretty significant effect on me. I think because I was raised religiously, it was quite easy to read, but it was just really basic common sense with money. And I think applying the principles in that book to other areas of your life really, really helps. But it was simple things like, paying yourself first has applied to every area of my life. From when I first started earning pocket money, I, divide things up right through to when I started a business. I know so many business owners who go into business and then don't pay themselves first. And so I think learning those basic principles and getting control of my finances from a young age really impacted the rest of my life. And it's been the book that I've recommended most to people. It's been The Richest Man in Babylon. Obviously, there's tons of other books that I've read and a lot more as an adult, like when I was going through trauma and stuff. But that tends to be the one that I found the most life-changing.
Oh, definitely. I always enjoy reading that book. It's definitely an easy read, but it has profound information. Like, oh,
yeah. And I think that's the thing, because it is so little. It's like a teeny tiny book. And so it's easy to sort of get through, and because you can implement the stuff straight away. It's basic, it's simple. And for a lot of people, it's a quick change, if that makes sense. Right. Just changing a couple of things from that book in their life makes it, a difference straight away.
Oh, right. Because you think about some books, like you have this notion, oh no, it's going to be this big, massive thing. It's going to take me weeks to get through it. And you realize, oh, I could read that in like a lunch break or something.
Exactly. Actually, there's one thing that I was thinking of changing, because I write typically articles with, 20 ways to improve your self-confidence and things like that. And I'm like, I'm going to be changing that up soon. And I'm going to be posting like one thing each article will just have like one thing to change for that day. So it's like, one little tweak in your life and the difference it can make, instead of people approaching something and going, oh my gosh, here's 50 things that I have to do to make my life awesome. It's like, no, if you just make this one change, that's going to make a difference. And then tomorrow do this one change. I think the smaller steps make it easier to, climb the mountain, so to speak.
Right. Definitely. Well, awesome. I'm glad we're able to have you on today because you shared so much knowledge and wisdom about your journey. And if people want to learn more from you, everything from your story, and be able to ask how they can be able to get you to speak in front of a group or work with them in their business, how can they reach out and learn more from you?
Well, I'm Kylie Travers on all social media, and kylietravers.com.au is my website. If people want to email me or contact me on Facebook or Twitter or pretty much anywhere. Facebook tends to be my best one. But they can contact me in any way, and I'm more than happy to discuss anything. I'm pretty open about my life in general. So but the website kylietravers.com.au has the most info.
Oh, excellent. Well, I hope that people will take the time to reach out to you because you have a powerful story to share, and more people need to hear how they can turn those obstacles into opportunities and how they can leverage gratitude and really create the life that they want to live instead of living the life that might be handed to them.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I hope you have an amazing day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.